I just want to say something kind of separate, I guess. Whenever you do decide to do your internships, don't forget the social aspect of it. That was something I've talked about with people before, but beyond the chance of getting skills, this is your chance to see how you can network with people, and especially if you're in a bigger city or a place where everybody knows everybody, that'll be one of the more important parts of your internship. But it'll just be it'll be a really good learning experience too, because that's something that you just can't learn while you're in school right now, and it'll be something just don't forget about that.
Yeah, it was just interesting talking about the other people who work there and all the other interns. Everybody has their own kind of unique look at everything and their own reasons for being there. And some of them were between jobs, and some of them were still in college, some were in graduate school. So everybody's kind of at a different level, and that was always really interesting. We had like intern happy hours, like a lot, so and that sort of thing. And it was just fun because there were lots of little bars and stuff. And it's just nice to go hang out. And I mean, it really wasn't about drinking. It was really just about talking and relating to each other.
So Hannah, how was your experience with Congress? Was it like high pressure? Was it like
when I say I worked for Congress, I worked for Congress. The building I was actually in looked something like the geology building. It was about 10 blocks away from Congress. But it was lower pressure than anybody actually working on the Hill, I would say. The GAO is filled with just a lot of policy nerds. They're really nice people. They're much more open with you, much more willing to communicate with you and get you involved. But I would say it's a much less stressful environment. Yeah.
Could I ask you a question? Maybe a couple of you can address this. One thing I noticed is among the personal development skills that you learned was about managing time and boundaries of how much work you were going to be doing. Did any of you have that kind of experience that you had to consciously decide how much time and energy you were going to be putting toward this, and you had to set that boundary for yourself?
Towards our internship generally, or towards specific projects we were given?
Whatever.
Well, I'm probably not the best person to actually respond to this question, because I really didn't have a problem with that. This summer, that was basically all I did was my internship, because I didn't have to take any summer classes. Well, we did, reports and stuff for Jolie, but and I was given a lot of responsibility. I was the only intern in my department of the parks, so I was given a lot of responsibilities, but I just really liked all of them, and they were all really engaging. So when I needed guidance, it was there for me. When I didn't, I could handle it. So other people would probably be more valuable.
My director was actually kind of like, that was the thing she was most critical of me about, was my lack of ability to maintain self-care and boundaries. That, like, I would obsess on something, and she uses this thing called Dropbox, and mine knows about it too. And it sends like a little, like if she's on her computer at 11 o'clock at night and I'm on mine and I'm saving the document I'm working on, she can see that I just saved. So she would know that like I would be saving at 11 o'clock at night, and so then she would know that I shouldn't be working on that at that time, but I would be obsessing on finishing whatever I wanted to finish. And she really pushed me to learn that stopping and coming back the next day with a clear mind is better than going and going and going and really just like spinning your wheels and not getting as much done just because you're tired or you're overwhelmed with the process. And with the research study I did, I had over 5,000 entries of just numbers, and I'm not a numbers person at all, but I wanted to finish it so badly. But I had to learn that it wasn't getting me anywhere to stay up all night working on it, that I was going to get just as much done if I went to bed at a reasonable time and got up with a clear mind. So that was definitely a boundary I learned how to make.
I think one of the things I learned how to make learned about was knowing when to ask questions, when to be able to see if you can like find other people. Do I need to go to the attorney when I have a question? Should I ask my supervisor? Can I just like talk to the other interns about it? So being able to figure that out, or when I was given a task, some of the research projects that I was given was stuff that's really hidden material, stuff that's not like it takes days and like days. For one report, a 3-page report that I did, it took me 2.5 weeks to research because the
stuff was just not readily available because a lot of it's politics issues, stuff that nobody really wants out there in the open. So being able to constantly communicate with my supervisor, letting him know that I am working on the project. I'm not like slacking off. It's not taking. I mean, it's taking me 2.5 weeks, but it's not because I'm just sitting at my computer on Facebook or something. Like I was actually working, but it took a lot longer than I had anticipated. So being able to communicate at the right times and not like constantly going when he has his own projects and reports and so on that he's working on, and the other interns as well. So being able to find that balance of when is the right time to go and when's the time to just like try to figure it out on my own and exhaust my other resources before I have to fall back on them. So being able to get that like independence in terms of the work you do.
You said about time, right? Managing your time. So, I found, when I went there, like I said, they had a lot of interns, and so it was hard for them to find space. But when I showed up and I said, and they were like, okay, well, you're just gonna work 3 days a week. And I told my boss, I was like, oh, well, I can work 5, if you want. She was like, great, you're working 5. And I worked 5, and I really was glad I did. Even though sometimes it was a little cramped, because there were a lot of interns who did only work on certain days. But I really was glad that I did as much as I could. Usually I was done and would just go home and sleep. I was usually tired. I woke up at 7, 6:30 every morning. But it was good, I think, to have that break after work. But I was really glad that I worked basically like a 40-hour week, I guess. And every day was valuable, something different, something new, talking with somebody different, doing something different. So every minute that I was able to be there was really beneficial. So spend as much time there as you can.
Yeah, and I guess with time management, it's something where you're never gonna really know your point, like your breaking point, until you hit it. And so I would just say that I know that I had that point in life where I was like, I'll just say yes to everything. I'll see how much I can fit into my schedule, and then you reach that point where you say, well, I know that I'm going to be more efficient if I'm not stressed out, like to the max every day. And I would say the best point is to find a time where you're as busy as you can, but you still have the hour or 2 a day, or the time you need to stay relaxed and focused, because you get more done.
That and you don't burn out as easily.
Yeah.
That's like the phase I'm going through. I'm saying like yes to everything and starting to burn out.
Yeah. And I think part of taking stress off yourself, because I know a lot of my projects would be like, okay, write this press release because we have to give it to Mayor Ballard's office in an hour. And I'm not someone who I'm not like a slow worker, but I overanalyze, and I really like to have everything worded exactly how I like. And you just learn to stop doing that because you can't. And a lot of that for me was removing stress, to just trust myself that I'd be able to do it the best I could, and my supervisors would probably like it, and if they didn't, they would tell me and re-edit it, and then we'd go from there. So I think just kind of trusting in yourself was one of the biggest lessons I actually learned.
Yeah, that's right. I definitely realized that I could have a lot more responsibility than I realized. Getting to work every day, and the fact that my boss, the first day gave me, things that actually mattered, and that would be, somebody else would see, but that, would be basically from her, and that sort of thing. So she was willing to give a lot of responsibility, and there they gave a lot of responsibility to their interns. They really did real work, and really wrote real papers, really worked on stuff, and that was really valuable. But it's a lot of responsibility when you realize you can do it.
And perhaps on that note, that you can do it. Please join me in thank you. And